5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Why has Rian retired? Abry's up to 7. Oh Jesus Christ! The world champion. It's 5 red lights, but oh my boss gotta send it. Oh, Tomas gets pulled. Main mic. Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the URC. Yes, we are streaming twice in the same week, and that is because we have had some crucial changes that have needed to be made to the driver changes, driver lineups. We've lost some drivers, we have some new drivers in, and yeah, that is called on changes to be made. Just put the logo on there. Where's the actual logo? It's here. It's this one. Okay, put that on there. Yeah, anyway, joining me today is Leopold, or Marcus Leopold. How are you, Marcus?
Oh, it's a beautiful Saturday. And that's all I can say. It's not a Saturday to be up at 9:30 in the morning, though.
Oh, sure. We've all done that before. Yeah, it's terrible. Working on a Saturday is awful. Or getting up at 9:30 on a Saturday is awful. But we have some new lineups to discuss. So a bit of backstory. Bit of chaos, bit of drama hit the fan after Japan. Things weren't as smooth sailing, I think, as everyone hoped it would be. There was some arguments, there were some opinions, and it was just, Leo, how would you sum it up? Was there just a bit of chaos?
I think it was just a lot of people being unhappy about the way the grid has ended up forming after the driver transfer system came in and after a few new drivers joined.
Yeah.
So they were calling for some sort of change. Obviously, Ferrari were the biggest voices when the change were coming into effect and when they were being discussed. But all in all, we've managed to reach a conclusion now where I think, however much everyone still won't be completely happy because the lineups aren't as... Some people have better lineups, some people have worse. I think overall they'll make for a better championship overall with these changes.
Yeah, I think what we've come to is like the best solution that we can with the grid that we have and the drivers that we have and our availability. There's some new additions in there that I've had to jump in, but you see, I think what we had for the season, we had two teams that were in contention and were kind of fair, balanced, and then the other 8 teams kind of forgotten about, I would say, in terms of competitiveness. Like, you look at the bottom, Mercedes, Haas and Sauber, they don't have the drivers that Ferrari, Williams or Alpine have had this season, let's just say, for example. So there's not really been a balance throughout the entire playing field, and when you just have one division and one tier for the moment, for the time being, you have to just be able to make sure that it's fair for everyone and not just suited to one or two teams. Of course, there's one or two teams that will feel harshly done by this change and they'll feel they did nothing wrong. It's the absolute truth, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just the system that has been implemented, being the driver's transfer system, it hasn't played out in a fair way. I think that's due to, my personal opinion is, I think that's due to team principal's interest. Some TPs have less interest in this system than others, and I think for a team principal system to actually work, I think every team principal has to have a much more level of interest in getting better drivers, trying to improve their teams to win. And I just saw more effort from others than some. I'm not going to name names, but some team principals know who they are. Leo, you're not one of them, don't worry.
No, I think it's just that, the system allowed for interpersonal connections to be used as well, and there wasn't any way of, at least in the system that was given, to ensure that a trade was fair for all parties,
Yeah.
Like, there are a few trades that came out where someone had a much better driver for a much worse driver and no money went through it, and obviously, even if efforts were made to try and keep it fair, it didn't end up in the end, so...
Yeah, definitely.
Experts will be exploited at the end of the day. That's the crack with F1.
So that's what we're hoping for, I think, for the rest of the season, is a more balanced championship, something with entertainment, I suppose. Not really entertainment, but more of a balanced and more fair grid, where every team has the ability to finish highly in the top 10 or whatever some week, and it's just more a less dominated grid by one or two teams. So we won't spare any more time. The lineups are probably half changed, I'd say, for some teams. I think there's one team with an entirely new lineup, or two teams with an entirely new lineup. The rest of them are basically half changed, I would say, Leo. I think I haven't really probably shown you the graphic, but you've seen the draft of it, and you can kind of tell that there's only really one or two teams that have received new overhauls. So in reverse constructors order, we will start with Kick Sauber, who are 10th in the Constructors' Championship. So both of their drivers, Vroom Vroom and Sir Nathan Yu, have been let go. they've been relieved of their racing duties. Vroom Vroom not showing up in 4 races. Sir Nathan Yu hasn't really shown up that much. Japan was kind of the nail in the coffin for him when he decided to play Geometry Dash. So, you know, that kind of gave me the signals that he didn't want to be there. So he's been replaced, they've both been replaced with Joker and Liam. So Joker's come from Alpine to the Kick Sauber team, and Liam, who was a reserve that Jake, the Ferrari team principal, brought in, has been convinced to race, and he'll race with Kick Sauber. So hopefully these 2 drivers will turn up more consistently than their predecessors, and will actually give Sauber a bit of a fighting chance this season to maybe fight with the midfield. So Leo, what are your thoughts on that lineup? Is it a better change going forward for Sauber?
I think definitely after Japan, we saw Joker does have the potential to be up there in the field, so that's going to be an extraordinary change already for Sauber. I think they got lucky with Sir Nathan getting quite high in Kota, but after that they've not really seen any results. They've been on pretty much double reserve duty for the entire season, so even just having a stable lineup that team principal Charlie can work with, as long as they're showing up, will just be an instant improvement and probably bring them some very good points coming in the future.
Absolutely, I can definitely say the same. I just think having a stable lineup, as you said, is something that they need to have for these next 7 races. So yeah, that is Sauber's lineup. Moving on then to 9th in the Constructors is Haas. Now Haas, I was surprised to see, I didn't think changes would be needed, but you know, I think other teams made some complaints about those changes, so Haas do have a change in lineup. So FaZe Monkey stays at the team. He remains at Haas, but his teammate has changed. So Jitter Archie has left Haas. We'll reveal his team later on. So FaZe Monkey's new teammate is Richie, who has come from Racing Bulls to Haas. Now Racing Bulls are in 7th. And Richie just got on the podium in Japan. So, and I believe Richie and FaZe Monkey are pretty good friends, Leo, as you were saying. So hopefully he's not too disappointed with this move to Haas.
Yeah, I don't think Richie will be that upset. I mean, he has said in the chat already, if I stay with ST, I'm happy. So hopefully he will be just as happy working on the Quiet Wood. But Richie and FaZe Monkey, they've raced against each other in the past. They'll have respect for each other, and I'm sure Quiet Boy can be there to quell any issues between the 2 of them. But it's a very strong lineup that has come out of this with, because they've got 2 very consistent drivers in general, because Richie on his day will be phenomenal, and off his day will still be able to fight for some good points. And FaZe Monkey, however much he's not shown that potential that we know he has recently, he can still get there in the points and keep bringing Haas up the Constructors.
Absolutely. Moving onwards now to Mercedes, who are in 8th. Mercedes, Leo, have probably had the most difficult season out of, besides Kick Sauber obviously, but they started high and mighty in Silverstone, and then obviously the mistake of removing Hyper just has really impacted them a lot this season. So Mercedes' lineup is resorting back to what they would have started with back in Silverstone. So XD Tyler still remains, Solar has departed the team, and Hyper actually is back. So Hyper joins Mercedes again for the second or the final 7 races of the season. And he's on a mission to salvage the season for Mercedes. They've just been going backwards since round 1. So does bringing Hyper back into Mercedes, does this give them a chance to recover their season, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since Hyper's departure, they've scored exactly 2 points in the championship, which shows how heavily they would have had to rely on Hyper to be anywhere. But I feel like Hyper and XD Tyler, Hyper will be there at the top. He may not have that perfect consistency, but he has pace in him to where he's definitely going to be fighting for wins, for podiums consistently, week in, week out. And then XD Tyler, however much he's not the strongest driver overall, he can hook it together sometimes, and he could get himself into points-paying positions to support his teammate in maybe bringing Mercedes back towards a sort of championship fight.
Yeah, I think that's what Tim has the hopes in for Mercedes right now, and I think he's happy to see Hyper coming back into the team. And you know, I was talking to Tim and Hyper last night in the Mercedes chat, and Hyper is feeling confident about Canada and Belgium, the next 2 tracks. So, you know, we could see Mercedes on a high and come back, which for them it would be great to see. So moving on to 7th in the constructors is the Racing Bulls team. Racing Bulls have been on and off this season. Again, they had a good first race under Richie in Silverstone, picking up 10 points. They started the season 5th in the constructors, and then they just, almost like Mercedes, they fell off a little bit. They just kind of stopped delivering points finishes. I think they just struggled to perform and get the most out of their driver lineup. But last week they did really well to get back on the podium, thanks to Richie. And unfortunately though, for Haas, a new team principal will need to join the team, because racing for the Racing Bulls team for the rest of the season is Quiet Boy and Kloppo. Billy Wiz has departed this team as well, so it's a whole new lineup for the Racing Bulls team. So Quiet Boy steps in to Racing Bulls with Kloppo, which means he will lose his team principal role at Haas, and someone will have to fill in for him. So it should be a good lineup to perhaps turn things around for Racing Bulls. I know they're pretty close to Red Bull at the moment in the Constructors' Championship. And speaking of Red Bull, they are the next team we're moving over to. Leo, this is your team. So 5 races in. Do you want to summarize your season so far?
We were nowhere. We got a result from a reserve, and then we were actually in a pretty good spot with Yari coming in for Imola. I think the start of the season was always going to be rough. We had Shano and Billy Wiz, and neither of them are really drivers that could pull something out and get in those high scoring positions pretty consistently. And even with a special performance, I don't think they would have gone any higher really than P6. Sorry, Shane and Billy. But, you know, we had the reserve in Imola who got us P2, and then Yari came back in Japan feeling a lot more confident in himself. He actually said that he was struggling a bit in Japan in general. He managed to hook up a good race even with wing damage for most of it.
Yeah.
And bring everything back for a good P4 in the end. So looking a lot stronger now than we have been initially.
Absolutely. So Red Bull's new lineup then, obviously Yari remains at the team, and then their second driver is the reserve who raced last week for Williams, Kush D. Now, he didn't have a good first race. He struggled, I think, in that race. I think he retired in the pits actually. So it's probably a little worrying, but I think, you know, in a first race, the expectations aren't going to be very high. They're going to be pretty low. There's not much pressure to perform really in your first race. And Japan is a difficult track to start at. So look, he's going into Canada next week as a Red Bull driver. It's an even tougher challenge. It's a lot more narrow. But I think this is just the lineup that Red Bull need. They need 2 consistent drivers showing up as well if they want to, you know, finish in the top 5. So moving on then from the bottom 4, or the bottom 5 I should say, we go to P5 in the championship, which is Aston Martin. Now this is a team that really started on a high this season with Fran and Vinny. And Vinny did have a good start to the season. Fran obviously picked up at has an okay race in Silverstone, and then a win in Jeddah and a P3 in Austin. So before Fran's moved to Ferrari, obviously Aston Martin were one of the top teams in the constructors, and now they've fallen back to 5th through some of the driver transfers that Ricky has made. Don't want to comment on Ricky's transfer business. I don't know. I don't really want to get into that. I think it'll cause probably arguments, but that lineup has changed. Bluefoot did come in during the transfer window, and he stays at Aston Martin for the rest of the season, but his teammate is different. Vinny has departed Aston Martin, and he gets one of the McLaren drivers. He gets Johnsy Boy, who was at McLaren at the start of the season, has been delivering pretty well for McLaren. Actually, he's been doing pretty well as there's no really number 1 or number 2 drivers at McLaren, so he's been doing well as a second or first car at McLaren, to say the least. So yeah, this is probably what Aston Martin needs to try and keep their position in the top 5, Leo.
Yeah, I mean, Bluefoot and Johnsy Boy are both great drivers in their own respect, because both of them do have that pace in them to be fighting deep in the points, but both of them also could just have a poor race and leave themselves pointless. But I think Aston, along with the announced lineup for Sauber and Haas, are probably the ones that are going to be most consistently fighting for that mid to low point sections, and that'll make a really interesting battle for the midfield in the constructors. I just don't think they quite have the quality to challenge the faster drivers at this point in time.
Yeah, definitely. I think Aston Martin will become a midfield team, and you know, if Red Bull add any pressure to them, it'll be between them and Red Bull for 5th or maybe 4th, even if McLaren decide to capsize. And speaking of McLaren, they are the next team we're going to. McLaren, I've been really surprised that they're still in the top 4, but when you have 2 drivers who are definitely capable of finishing in the top 5, finishing in the top 10 consistently, you're going to have a team that's there in the top 4, and McLaren have been doing exactly that this season. Now, there has been changes made to their lineup. Obviously, we know Johnsy Boy is at Aston Martin. McLaren maintain or keep Pickle Alex, I should say, as their number 1 driver, and it was basically a switcheroo between McLaren and Aston Martin, because WTEC7 Vinny has come to McLaren as the second McLaren driver. So there probably won't be papaya rules now at McLaren in terms of exchanging positions, swapping positions, and I think it'll be a really interesting battle now between McLaren, Aston and Red Bull for 4th. What would you think, Leo? Because I think Yari is able to obviously race Blue and Johnsy Boy, and I think he would definitely be able to fight Pickle Alex and Vinny. So have we got a battle already then for 4th?
Yeah, I think Vinny can show up on his day, but the real star of McLaren now and definite number 1 driver is going to be Pickle Alex. He's got such good pace and consistency, but then he's also got incredible skills at just tyre management. He's one of the only drivers that I've seen over recent times consistently pulling off 1-stops, even when they looked very limiting, where other drivers may have elected for the 2.
Yeah.
And even in Imola, you know, he took his hards from that first safety car all the way to the final lap, and unfortunately they just gave up on him on the final lap through Piratella. So there's a lot of opportunities for McLaren to be in that high scoring position, for Pickle Alex to maybe play the team game a bit with Vinny to try and help improve his position, because Pickle Alex has that pace in him, and with Vinny as a supporting cast, and even sometimes Pickle helping Vinny in that sense, could end up with some very good results, and it will make for an interesting battle between the likes of Haas, Red Bull, Sauber, and McLaren.
Yeah.
And a lot of the teams, really. I think it'll be a big battle for a lot of the teams currently battling in that mid to low points, and that'll be great for the rest of the season.
Definitely. And if Hyper performs at Mercedes, then it's going to be Mercedes probably getting into the top 4. So it'd probably become a battle for 5th, which would be just as good as well. I think if there's 3 or 4 teams fighting for a 5th place finish in constructors, is definitely going to be a bit of a cinematic moment. But moving away from McLaren, we now move in to the top 3, which is, as of now, Ferrari, Williams and Alpine. Obviously Ferrari sitting 3rd after their 1-2 performance in Japan. It's really put them up there in the hunt for the Constructors' Championship. Yes, they're around 20 points behind Alpine as it stands. Alpine on 99 points and Ferrari on 71. Williams are sitting on 98. So it is pretty close at the top of the Constructors' Championship between 2 teams. Ferrari just basically a P2 or a P1 behind. So they just have to try and narrow down that gap for the rest of the season. And Ferrari's lineup is changed. Fran remains at the team, but coming up from Haas is Jitter Archie as his teammate. Now Jitter Archie has been here and there this season. He's delivered some good results for Haas so far, but he's had some rather difficult races, Austin being one of them. I think his collisions with Sir Nathan Yu got him a lot of penalties, a lot of grid penalties, got him the 13 grid place penalty for Imola, but how he responded to that, and Haas picked up their most points ever in Imola. So on his day, as you were saying, Leo, Jitter Archie can deliver good results and he can get points, and we know Fran can get wins, can finish in the top 3. So Ferrari just need that consistently for the second half of the season. But what do you think? Obviously, do you think these whole changes are hindering Ferrari, or what's your opinion?
I think Ferrari have definitely been hindered because obviously they had Guido and Fran, and both of those guys were absolute rocket ships, especially working together like they did in Japan. But that's where a point of balance comes in. They can't just have the strongest lineup on the grid because it would just ruin the fight for both championships. Yeah. I think this is going to be dependent on Jake, whether or not Ferrari are going to be catching up to Alpine and Williams in this Constructors' Championship fight. Obviously, Fran's still looking for his driver's title. But if Jake can keep Jitter in a good mindset, and if Fran can just keep delivering results and perform like he did in Japan, because I think even without his teammates' help, he would have still been winning that race.
Yeah.
There is a very good chance that Ferrari are just going to absolutely dominate for the rest of the season, but we just need to see what Jake can do with Jitter to try and bring that consistency to him.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think, Jake was a bit frustrated by the whole decision and everything, but he still has a driver that's capable of winning. I mean, Fran's pace in Japan was good. I think if Fran decided to try and overtake Guido, he would have. But I think, the team help kind of order was in play there, and that's why Fran was a bit more laid back that race. But if Fran wanted to beat Guido, he could have. I think that's the thing I'm trying to get across. And Jitter Archie as well, with the right mindset in a race, has the ability to pick up the rest of the points. So Ferrari can still go on and win this Constructors' Championship. Like, it's not entirely in Alpine's hands anymore, and certainly not now that they've lost Joker to kick Sauber. So what it does is it certainly opens it up even more. Moving on to second place, Williams. who did lose Gaffo obviously, and I think Williams just, they haven't been the same since he departed. I think that's the best way I could probably say it, is that Williams have very much been a different team since Gaffo departed them. Japan really showed that. Metal Metal, just not one of his strongest tracks. He's had better races this season for sure. Kushti, obviously we talked about him when we were doing the Red Bull announcement. Again, your first race is difficult. There's not much expectations of you. You have nothing to lose, and it just didn't go to plan for him, obviously. But for Williams, their lineup for the rest of the season is Metal Metal and Max, or MXTSMI. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that, but we're just going to call him Max. So Metal Metal and Max is Williams' lineup for the rest of the season. Now, Leo, you know Max probably better than I do from Formula Aero. I haven't really seen him race, so what can you tell me? What will he bring to Williams as a replacement for Gaffo?
Yeah, so obviously Gaffo was Williams' carry, really. You know, the only driver consistently being up there and fighting at that podium level, fighting for the win. You know, we saw in Jeddah, he was keeping Fran right under pressure the entire time. He won in Kota, you know. But Max, in his own right, could probably replace Gaffo entirely. I think Max does have that overall pace in him.
Yeah.
When he gets it right at a circuit, when he understands how to drive it, he can truly leave a mark on a race. And he's one of those that you could expect to see probably fighting with Fran, fighting with Luca, fighting with Hyper, and just trying to put them under pressure. Even if he doesn't end up beating them, he'll keep them honest, and there'll be times where that'll make those ahead of him make mistakes. And I think both Max and Metal Metal will be there to capitalize if they can get the tracks right.
Absolutely, and hopefully they'll have the ability to salvage and keep Williams' momentum going in this season, because it would be a shame, I think, to see Williams drop back so much. I think Gaffo would hate to see Williams drop back a lot, knowing the hard work that's been put into this season. So they should hopefully, I think if Williams don't finish in the top 4 this season, I think Ben will be very disappointed, just given how they started. And you know, they've had so many highs. Japan hopefully will just be a one-off for them, now that these lineups have experienced change. And finally, we go to the constructors leaders, who just took the lead of the championship there last week. Now Alpine before these changes would have been the only team, I think, that would have been able to take the fight to Ferrari in the constructors. I think they would have been the only team to do that because of Luca and Joker's abilities. And in terms of Alpine's lineup, Luca is staying at Alpine. He's not going anywhere. We chose to keep him at the team for the rest of the season. His teammate though has changed. His teammate has come up from Racing Bulls, and it's Billy Wiz who is Luca's teammate for the rest of the season. So what they should do is, if Hyper does what he says he's going to do, how I would predict the 3 teams to be in the constructors, I would predict it to be Alpine, Mercedes and Ferrari. That's kind of what I'm seeing, Leo, unless you have different predictions.
No, I think obviously Billy had a rough time at Red Bull. He looked slightly better once he moved over to Racing Bulls. So I think without the pressure, he could perform quite well. And I think just generally, Alpine do have a good lineup. Luca is a very complete driver in his own right. He has the pace that he wants, that everyone wants to see. He has the strength in himself just to keep going, keep winning. And I think Billy Wiz, if he can match that energy even somewhat, will leave Alpine probably out in front. Maybe they'll lose out to Williams, but it'll be a tough ask, and it'll be on Ghiararchi really to bring Ferrari back into this.
Yeah, it should be an interesting second half of the season, but as you can see on your screens now, there are the new lineups, and in case anyone missed them, I'll run through them from McLaren down to Sauber. So at McLaren is Pickle Alex and WTEC7 Vinny. At Ferrari we have Fran and Ghiararchi. Red Bull has Kushti and Yari. Mercedes has XD Tyler and Hyper. Aston Martin has Bluefoot and Johnsy Boy. Alpine has got Luca and Billy Wiz. Haas has FaZe Monkey and Richie. Williams have Metal and Max. And Sauber has Joker and Liam. So those are your lineups for the rest of the season, in effect of Canada next week, and then until the end of the season. So what this does is essentially it will build up the hype and hopefully the excitement to Tier 1 and Tier 2 being established, which is something we're looking to get made for Season 12. Whether that happens after this season or we try and push it out for the DLC, God knows when that comes out, but there's a lot of talking on that, obviously. But yeah, these are the lineups. Leo, are you happy with them?
Yeah, I'd say there are definitely a few teams that don't have that winning potential. There are definitely a few teams that have stronger and weaker lineups, but I think, especially for those who were reserves, you've got Kloppo in there, you've got the new unproven talent of Kushti. I think any reserve that wasn't racing week on week and wasn't guaranteed a seat has their chance now to show that they can do it, and I think that's the important part. They'll have the opportunity to probably build their pace, build their confidence, especially in preparation for Season 12, even if they can't put that performance up thus yet. But I think Kloppo and Kushti are definitely talents that can prove themselves now over the next couple of races, and I think Quiet Boy in that Racing Bull is going to be a threat to those at the front coming from the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely, and it should be just a good rest of the season, hopefully something more entertaining, and hopefully we'll see some of the bottom teams, with their lineups and their drivers showing up. We'll hopefully see those teams appearing more in the top 10, and it should make qualifying a bit more interesting as well. I think the fact that at least every team has a driver that's able to, well, not every team, but you get what I'm saying. Every team has the ability for one driver to do unbelievably well in qualifying, or cause a surprise or cause a shock. Just something to create a bit of drama and a bit of entertainment, and that's what we're doing to try and get to the end of Season 11. But folks, I hope you have enjoyed. I know this stream really came unplanned, but sometimes you have to overcome these challenges, and I think we dealt with the solution pretty well. Leo himself obviously came into the admin panel pretty late. I don't think he ever expected to be in this position of helping out, but he has done an immense job helping out for me. Jake came in as well, did a bit of advice, and obviously Gaffo then with his endless work as well that he's provided. So we've all come up with this solution, we've all talked about it. We drafted the lineups and everything and confirmed them before putting them out, so we did a good bit of work into this before we announced it, just to make sure we got it right, because we do want the rest of the season to go well and not have to close at early doors or whatever. We want this season to end well, and we want the championship story to go on that has been going on all season. Like Leo, you made a good point that we've had 5 different race winners, I think I'd like to see 6 different race winners or 7 different race winners, or maybe or maybe finding out who will be the first repeat winner of this season is all still to be discovered.
Yeah, I think as well. I think with that said, for next race, I think we do have a very good chance of a new race winner coming in with Canada, because Quiet Boy is a monster around Canada. At least the last time I saw him race it, and he's only gotten better since then.
Yeah.
So be watching out for Quiet Boy come Canada, because he could do something magical in both the wet and the dry.
Absolutely. Well, look, folks, that's all we will talk about today. We have Canada next week at 8 p.m. I think I won't be home at 8 p.m., but hopefully someone will have the lobby. We'll talk about that closer to time on the start time. It could be 8 p.m., it could be 8:30 p.m. It just depends whenever I get home. But Leo, I'll talk more to you about that on Canada or whatever sometime tomorrow or during the week. It doesn't have to be worried about too much about now anyway. So folks, we'll let you all go. Leo, thank you for coming on and helping me out with the stream. We will see you all next week for round number 6 with this basically new grid.